Hello! You're listening to the Peep Show edition of the Bare Naked Bravery. My name is Emily Ann Peterson, and this is just a peep into what kind of bravery I am dealing with this week. Earlier this week, I took an MBTI test, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator test, and discovered and was validated by a pro that I am an INFJ. And this means that I am 1% of the population, which isn't surprising. I always do things a little bit weird and a little bit uniquely, so it's not surprising to me at all that this is the case. But one of the things that came up as I was reading through this personality profile, and if you haven't been tested in any kind of personality, there's or personality test, there's Enneagram, there's StrengthsQuest or StrengthsFinder, Myers-Briggs. There's a bunch more that are 16 personalities as well. It's a really great tool to just be able to look at yourself and say, who am I? Who is this crazy person that I am? And with any type of introspection or personality tests that you take, nothing is a hard and fast rule. That's just how it goes. But it does give you a good clue into why you do what you do, or why you behave or react the way that you do. So in reading through all of this personality profile stuff of an INFJ, I realized that fun is not something that I have a whole lot. To my close friends, this might not be surprising, but my personality type is just very serious. And I see things like a friend posted this morning on Facebook about this guy named Matthew Reinhart, who's a pop-up book artist and engineer, and he's talking about how he does his work, and he just looks like he's having a blast. And I see that, and my personality just goes, that looks so great and wonderful and detailed, and he looks like he's having so much fun, and I crave that. So this week, what I've been trying to do is incorporate more of fun into what I'm doing, more fun into my bravery. I think that we hear the word bravery and we think it has to be this drudgery, this scary thing that we have to overcome. And it doesn't. It can be fun if we choose it to be fun. And this also brings up something that happened to me on Monday morning. Monday morning, I woke up to an onslaught of triggering Facebook comments and posts from friends and colleagues and people that I admire, and they had posted all of this very polarizing political stuff just because it was the day after the election. And I mean, not the election, oh my gosh, I can only hope. I really want it to be over soon, because after the debate, the second debate, I woke up in the morning facing an onslaught of all of this high-flying political polarizing commentary from friends and family, and I got nauseous, so nauseous that I was leaning over the toilet dry heaving because I was so scared. And I was scared because I felt out of control of the situation. I really did. I think, nobody knows what's really going to happen with this election at this point. Anything can happen, and we all have our preferences. I know that this is true. However, there's a lot at stake with this election, and I feel that very deeply. This is also something that is very close to an INFJ personality type. I feel everything very, very deeply, and I'm very sensitive to the comments and the ways that I live my life and what I take in. And with this election specifically, it's really affected me on a physical level. And I've never actually dry heaved out of fear before. I mean, I get stage fright. I do have social anxiety from time to time. I have an ebb and flow of social anxiety. But I've never gotten to the point of dry heaving out of just sheer fear. And as I was sitting on the bed afterwards, like talking myself down off the ledge of going at another bout over the toilet, I realized that the freedom of expression and the diversity that I know that we all need in our society, in our culture, and in our world, those things are so valuable to me that deleting my Facebook account was not an option, even though it really was something that I really wanted to do. I know that the freedom of expression and diversity and all the things that are at stake in this election, those are so valuable to me that it is worth leaning towards hope rather than leaning away from fear, basically. And I think that choice, because the posture looks the same. Some may say that leaning over the toilet is leaning towards hope, because I was so hopeful for all of this good stuff to happen in our world that when it's threatened, I double over. Ugh. Enough talk about vomiting. That's just gross. However, I will say this. The choice between fear and hope and leaning towards one or the other, it can be seen as a glass half full, glass half empty too, because the posture of leaning towards hope looks very similar to the posture of leaning away from fear, or being fearful, I should say. It can look very similar, but the inside is very, very different. Leaning towards hope means making small adjustments. For me, it means making small adjustments to my social media activity between now and when the election actually happens. It means stating what needs to be stated, but not intaking so much, because the way that I see and perceive the world and make conclusions and decisions and sort through options and polarizing comments, the way that I do that hits me so sensitively that it really, really affects me. So, this week, bravery looks like two things. Fun, having more fun, making more jokes, just generally being more on the lighter side of things. Even though there's very, very, very serious issues at hand, it is still okay to participate in the lightness of life. Because, believe me, everything can get really heavy if you hold it all at once. And no one person can hold the weight of the world for any amount of time, let alone one morning after a presidential debate. So I encourage you this week to, first of all, if you haven't yet taken any of these personality tests, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, there's a bunch of others. Most of them you can take various kinds of tests online, and those are all free. And I'll put some links in the show notes of this episode on my website. You can just go to barenakedbravery.com for those links. And so that's the first thing. I encourage you to look at yourself and look at your personality. And second, how do those findings encourage you to make changes in your life right now? For me, in this case, it was acknowledge that I actually am really sensitive to what I take in on social media and in the news, and set up some boundaries so that I can still be realistic about what's going on in the world, but without drastically changing my overall demeanor of how I interact with it. So finding out all about this personality stuff is really interesting to me this weekend, especially because this weekend I will be at the Far West Folk Alliance Regional Conference in Bellevue, Washington. If you are there, come say hello to me. As an INFJ, this means that I will be completely out of my element. I'm an introvert. I'm so much an introvert. that I will probably take some good time to just go to my hotel room and breathe deeply so that I can go back out into the conference. So, anyways, if you are there, come say hello to me. I would be overjoyed to meet you. I'll be playing a couple showcases on Thursday night and Friday night, and it'll be a really great conference. I know that it will. And so my goal is to just have a little bit more fun than I normally would have, because I need the lightness and we need the lightness. It makes the bravery a lot easier to go forth into the world with. That's it. That's the Peep Show for today. I hope that your day is filled with vulnerability and filled with sensitivity to self and others. And I also really wish for you this week that your lightness and your darkness be balanced in truth, because that is what makes the world a really beautiful place, when we can see truth in a unique and accurate light. And stay tuned for part 2 of my conversation with singer-songwriter Kai Alfred Hillig. Next week is when it'll get published. I know you'll love it, and I'll see you then.